All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we are talking through the Law of Success series again, part four. This is enthusiasm. It's part four because I recorded the last four series in the same day, all on April 12th, 2022. So you may be getting these at different times, but it's part four for me. We're talking about enthusiasm today. And what is it? What is enthusiasm? It's really energy. They're kind of the same in my head. Like when Napoleon Hill's talking about enthusiasm, a lot of successful people today talk about upping your energy, like just approaching the situation with a lot of energy. And it's basically a state of mind. This is how Napoleon Hill talks about it. A state of mind that inspires and arouses one to put action into the task at hand. Furthermore, he talks about the fact that it's contagious and is the moving force that impels action. So, if you're like sitting there cold calling and you're like, yo, I hate this cold calling, but you are an enthusiastic person and you're going to be like, I'm going to switch my mindset around cold calling to inspire and arouse myself into action, into the task at hand. And let's say you're on a sales team, you're on a sales floor and you're cold calling, and then you up your energy, you start smiling, you start standing up, you start moving around, and you just put some enthusiasm, put some energy into it. It'll start to affect the people around you, right? That's what Napoleon Hill is getting at when he's describing enthusiasm. And he's saying it's important to persuading people as well. Like if you don't have enthusiasm, I was about to say if you don't have enthusiastic, but if you don't have enthusiasm behind the thing that you are trying to sell, the thing that you are trying to convince somebody of, then it's going to be a hard sell, because enthusiasm means it shows that you believe in it, that you are genuine, that you are excited. And since it's contagious, it'll get that person excited. It'll get that person to be genuine towards it and get that person to maybe think about it, maybe accept it. And enthusiasm about things, it doesn't have to be specifically in sales. How we think of sales. We are always selling people and persuading people. When you're doing a job interview, you're selling people on yourself. When you're trying to convince your wife or your husband or your spouse or your significant other to go to dinner to a certain place, you're persuading them. When you're getting gifts for a wedding and you're deciding on which gifts to get, it's persuasion. When you're talking about the next business venture to do, the next investment to do, when you're trying to get people to give you capital, when you're trying to capture people's attention, you're persuading them to give you their attention for a second, for 2 seconds, for 3 seconds. That's why energy, wow, this is fantastic that I did this podcast. Earlier this week, I was thinking about in the One Funnel Away challenge, Russell Brunson talks about hook, story, offer, hook, story, offer, hook, story, offer. Everything is like you need to capture their attention. Then you need to tell your story to increase the perceived value of the offer, and then you need to offer. And so hook was like, what is a good thing that gets people's attention? And I just thought about it. When you are persuading somebody to give them your attention, it's that enthusiasm behind what you're doing, what you're selling. And so if you can capture energy, capture enthusiasm, somebody will be like, whoa, why is that person so excited? And how can I be that excited? Is a question that they ask. So that's a good hook. Answers come to questions when you ask the questions. So keep asking those questions, guys. That's what I just learned right now, recording this podcast live for you. So, so enthusiasm is contagious. It inspires action, and you can use it to persuade people. And where has it shown up in my life? There was this time where I was doing cold calling for UpDrive back in the day. This was like 6 months ago. And I need some meetings to hit a quota. And I approached the situation with energy. I typically did 180 calls in a day. But I said, I'm going to focus today. I'm going to cut out distractions, and I'm going to have one thought running through my head. That one thought was 2 meetings. I'm setting 2 meetings. I'm setting 2 meetings. I'm setting 2 meetings. I'm setting 2 meetings. And I know it is crazy, but I set 2 meetings. I hadn't set meetings that whole month, and it was like halfway through the month. And that day, I set 2 meetings because I focused. I ran one thought through my mind, and I took action that was in line with those thoughts. So Napoleon Hill also talks about when you have enthusiasm, make sure that your actions, your thoughts, and your words align. So I had to align my actions with my words and my thoughts. My words and my thoughts were 2 meetings, 2 meetings. That was literally, I was just repeating that over and over in my head and saying it out loud. 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings. Immediately, I would go to cold calling. And anytime I felt any sort of quiver in my energy, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings. Doing that I ended up setting 2 meetings. But here's the cool thing. When I kind of infused that enthusiasm into the situation, I went from making 180 calls in a day. I think I made 410 calls in one day. That was like 2 days worth of work, 2+ days worth of work in one day. And it's because I injected enthusiasm into my task to reach a definite chief aim, which is another thing we'll get to a little bit later in this show, but Napoleon Hill talks about that as well. So that's where it showed up for me, closing those 2 meetings. Anytime I'm persuading people, so when I'm on the podcast, people like feel my energy, feel my enthusiasm, because I love helping people with their dreams and goals. I love helping people take that next step and making connections. When it comes to really helping people take business steps, so I can really start a lot of ventures, but it has to be with people, because the energy I get is from helping people take steps that expand their minds, not necessarily doing businesses for myself. Like, business isn't the thing that gets me, people is the thing that gets me. And business is a tool to get to people, but simply a tool, right? People is where it's at for me. So that's where energy and enthusiasm has shown up in my life. Anytime I can help people take that next step towards their dreams and goals, or really expand their thinking, challenge their limiting beliefs, help them create abundant beliefs, that does it for me, man. That gives me that enthusiasm. Where do I want it to show up in my life? Well, I want it to be more like that op drive thing. I didn't like cold calling, but I was able to inject enthusiasm into it because I set a daily goal. Oh my gosh, learning more stuff. I lack daily goals. And if I didn't lack daily goals, I would be able to approach the situation with more enthusiasm. I'm learning tons of stuff on this podcast right now. I hope you guys are too. Um, so I wanted to show up in a consistent way in my life. So similar to Op Drive, I was like 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, inject enthusiasm, achieve a goal. Well, there are a lot of things that I do in my life that I don't necessarily want to do, but and that's because of Napoleon Hill talks about this in the book. Actually, we all have circumstances, whether it be lack of capital, family, friends, just commitments that we've made, where we can't necessarily always do the thing that gives us the most energy right now at this moment. We have to set goals to move towards it. Well, that's my life right now, moving towards things that I want to do, because you got to build business, you got to capture attention, and all that stuff takes time. You got to build trust, got to hone your skills. And so Napoleon Hill talks about the fact that you can always make a decision to move towards your chief aim, and you can inject enthusiasm into what you're doing currently, because it ultimately leads you to your definite chief aim. And so Op Drive, it was 2 meetings for me, so I didn't get fired, so I could continue running my podcast, right? Because I needed the capital from Op Drive to run my podcast. Definite chief aim, I connected those two things. I was able to set that daily goal and achieve that daily goal because it was focused, intentional, injected enthusiasm. Well, I want that to show up in all areas of my life, where it's like, okay, I may have a lot of things up in the air, but I want to see results, right? We want to see cash flow. That's the first thing. And we want to see really like impact, right? I guess impact's the first thing. Cash flow is the second thing. Y'all just saw a little bit of my scarcity mindset right there. But we're leading with impact. We're driving impact. But cash flow is typically a reflection of impact. And so if I get cash flow, I can impact more people because I can turn around and reinvest, right? So I really want enthusiasm to show up in consistency in the mundane in my life. And I want to have a reset habit. So the reset habit is kind of like in Op Drive, when I was closing the 2 meetings in the story I was just telling you guys, I'd get to a point where my energy waned. But then I focused and I was like 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings. And I had an action item that I need to do to get those 2 meetings. Well, in a lot of like the capturing and multiplying attention to grow my podcast, to grow my coaching business, and the wholesaling real estate land and capturing multifamily deals, there's not always a set activity that I can do. And this may just be something I need to get clear on. There's not a grinding activity that I can do to really get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm taking steps towards my dreams and goals right now, right? So the reset habit of like aligning my thoughts and words with an action that is headed towards a definite chief aim, that allows me to move towards my ultimate definite chief aim. So like a mini definite chief aim for my big definite chief aim in daily goals, in the mundane activities. So like, for example, with my current job at Be My App, it might be hit my 30 calls and get my emails in quick so I can set some meetings for that day or later that week, and then do some follow-ups later in the afternoon, right? Like, it's like structuring my day and having goals for time slots, like even like forget daily goals, like 30-minute goals, like 1 hour goals of like, I want that consistency. So, and the reset habit of like, when my energy or focus wanes, I can think one thing, say one thing, and do one thing. And all of those things are the same. So it was like 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, which means I need to cold call. That's it. It was like, I want 2 meetings, I need to cold call. The reset habit similarly needs to be, I want X number of meetings, I need to do this activity. I want X number of revenue, I need to do this activity. I want X number of this, I need to do this. And so I don't like having to like think through what those things are. They need to be predetermined, which means I just need to work on my clarity and work on what is revenue generating activity. And how can you apply this to your life? Excuse me. Napoleon Hill talks about a couple things. First, do work or render a service that you like best. So go towards the thing that gives you energy, and you will naturally have enthusiasm. Like there are things that drain energy and there are things that give energy. I talk a lot about the energy audit that I did. Go do things that give you energy. If you can't do things that give you energy because you're lacking capital, you're lacking social capital, you're lacking opportunity, you're lacking skills, you're lacking, I don't know, family, friends, whatever it may be, adopt a chief aim that leads you to engaging in the work eventually. So know what work you like best. Do that. If you can't do that, know what work you like best and do something right now that will help you get to the work that you like best. Adopt that definite chief aim, similar to my setting 2 meetings to continue running my podcast. Mini definite chief aim to ultimate definite chief aim. Move fast from 6 to 2. This is my own advice, really Gary Vee's advice. He's like, a lot of you are working 9 to 5, and then you stop working, you watch TV, you don't really wake up early. Well, what are you doing from 6 to 2? Like at 6, eat dinner. At 7, work on your business till 12. That's 5 hours. If you can work on a business for 5 hours a night, you're essentially working another job, right? And it's like, A, network, and B, drive sales. Like, that's it. If you can drive sales and you can replace your 9 to 5, then you can transform your business side hustle into your main gig. And so that's something Gary Vee talks about. That's similar. I talk about like move fast from 6 to 2 towards your definite chief aim. And if you think you don't have time, start setting those slotted goals of like, in this 30 minutes, or just write out all the activities you need to do in a day that are the most important, and be like, in this time, I'm going to do this, and this time I'm going to do this, and this time I'm going to do this. And make sure the activities line up with your definite chief aims, right? Also, auto-suggestion to align your thoughts, actions, and words. Like I did this when I was doing op drive, doing the calls. I was like 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings, 2 meetings. That word and that thought energy was aligning every cell in my body and all the energy around me to getting 2 meetings. And I know that sounds insane, but focus on something that intensely and see if you don't get it done. I think you will. And then take action that is clear action that will lead to that result. Keep the result in your head, keep the action in your head, and take clear action. Visualize the action too. Visualize your failure, and then visualize you keeping on. Is something Mel Robbins talks about. The last thing I want to say is study Tony Robbins. When you're looking to inject enthusiasm into a situation, part of that reset habit can be a consistent thought, a consistent word that either focuses on the result or the action, and then a clear, consistent action to lead to that result, right? So it's like, I want this result, I want this result, I'm doing this to get this result, I'm doing this to get this result. If you are really clear on those things, auto-suggestion works. But there's also movement. So if you get down, you do 10 push-ups real quick, if you take a 10-minute jog, if you go on a 30-minute bike ride, if you can get energy moving, if you eat right. Like Tony Robbins talks a lot about this, about producing energy and getting your mind and body into a state that is peak performance. So that's what you can do to apply it to your life. If you guys love this, make sure to hit me up, go to the website, join the email list, join the tribe of people who are trying to live their dream life and hold each other accountable to doing that. Yeah, join the email list, watch every podcast, interact with people, and try to help them move towards their dreams and goals. Join my coaching program. Join, let's talk real estate. Let's talk business. Let's talk financial freedom and hitting your dreams and goals. And as we always ask, guys, send this podcast to 1 to 3 people you know need to hear this message. Shoot us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we're out.